Have you ever stopped to ask yourself what it means to truly live simply? In a world overflowing with distractions and material pursuits, where the allure of modern conveniences and endless desires tugs at every corner of our lives, what would it take to embrace a life stripped of unnecessary wants and focused purely on the essence of existence? To pause, reflect, and ask this question is to step onto the path of understanding what simplicity truly entails. It is not merely the absence of material possessions or an outward display of minimalism, but a deep inward journey toward recognizing what truly matters. The 13 ascetic practices, or Dhuttamga in Pali, offer a profound answer to these questions. These practices serve as a mirror reflecting our inner tendencies, our clinging, our need for comfort, and our fear of letting go. Deeply rooted in the Theravada Buddhist tradition, Dhuttamga are more than mere guidelines for monastic living. They embody the very essence of a mindful and purposeful existence. While traditionally embraced by monks, these voluntary disciplines hold valuable lessons for anyone seeking clarity amidst the chaos of modern life. They beckon us to question the excesses we take for granted and challenge us to confront the attachments we often mistake for necessities. Each of these practices is an invitation, a quiet yet profound call to simplify, to detach, and to embrace a discipline that nurtures the soul. They encourage us to let go of the weight of our possessions, the need for constant gratification, and the ceaseless chase for more. In their simplicity, these practices reveal the paradox of renunciation. By giving up, we gain. We gain a sense of lightness, an unshakable calm, and the clarity to see life as it is, uncolored by our habitual cravings. Let us embark on a philosophical and emotional exploration of these practices, each of which is a step toward shaking off mental defilements and cultivating detachment, discipline, and mindfulness. Each practice is like a torch that illuminates the shadows of ignorance, guiding us toward the liberation that lies hidden beneath our layers of conditioning. Through these practices, we may discover not just simplicity in its truest form, but also the profound liberation that arises when we finally learn to let go. 1. Wearing robes made from discarded cloth. Pamsukulik Yanga. This practice challenges societal norms around clothing and status. By wearing robes made of discarded cloth, practitioners embody a profound detachment from vanity and materialism. It's not just a rejection of extravagance, but an active embrace of humility. Each piece of fabric, salvaged from heaps of waste, tells a story of impermanence and renewal. This act of transformation, turning what was abandoned into a source of dignity, serves as a metaphor for the spiritual path itself. Imagine, could we in our daily lives find beauty and utility in what others deem worthless? How might this reshape our perspective on waste, consumerism, and gratitude? 2. Possessing only 3 robes, Tekaveri Kanga. Owning just 3 robes, each with a specific purpose, represents a minimalist approach that shifts focus from accumulation to sufficiency. It's a deliberate rejection of the insatiable drive for more, teaching that fulfillment comes from within. This practice whispers a deeper question. How much do we truly need to live a meaningful life? In the face of overflowing closets and constant advertisements, this discipline beckons us to pause and consider the emotional weight of excess. Would shedding material clutter open space for spiritual clarity and contentment? 3. Eating only alms food. Pyamdapadidanga. The act of receiving food as alms transforms eating into a shared act of generosity and gratitude. Each bite becomes a sacred reminder of the interconnectedness between the giver and the receiver. It's a practice that dissolves the illusion of independence and nurtures humility. Imagine walking the streets with an alms bowl, trusting completely in the kindness of others for sustenance. How would this shift our relationship with food and community? Could we too cultivate a similar sense of gratitude for the unseen hands that nourish us daily? 4. Not omitting any house while on alms round. Sap Adani Ganga. Report, 3 paragraph. Approaching every household without discrimination symbolizes equality and impartiality. This practice pushes practitioners to see beyond surface-level differences, challenging biases rooted in wealth, status, or appearance. It's a profound exercise in compassion and respect for all beings. Reflect. How often do we allow judgments to dictate our actions? Could we, like these monks, engage with the world from a place of non-judgment and inclusivity? 5. Eating only one meal a day. Ekasani Kanga. Consuming a single meal each day sharpens mindfulness and reduces dependence on external pleasures. It's a practice of simplicity that confronts the culture of overindulgence. By eating solely out of necessity, practitioners learn to discern between need and desire. What if we adopted a similar mindfulness in our consumption habits, not just with food, but with all forms of resources? How might this alter our relationship with abundance and scarcity? 6. Eating from the alms bowl. Only Patape Nikanga. Mixing all food in one bowl eliminates preferences and attachments to taste or presentation. This practice nurtures equanimity, reminding practitioners that food's purpose is nourishment, not indulgence. Could we, in our daily lives, approach meals with similar mindfulness and gratitude? What if every bite became a meditation on sustenance and interconnectedness? 7. Refusing food offered after the designated mealtime, Jahalu Pakabati Ganga. By setting clear boundaries around eating, this discipline reinforces self-restraint and respect for the natural rhythms of the body. It's a reminder that even generosity must have limits. How often do we blur the lines between want and need, pushing beyond what is healthy or necessary? This practice invites us to reflect on where we might establish healthier boundaries in our own lives. 8. Dwelling in the forest, Aranikanga. Living amidst nature allows practitioners to experience the raw, unfiltered truths of existence. The forest, with its silence and solitude, becomes both a sanctuary and a teacher. It reveals the interconnectedness of all life and the transient nature of all things. Could we, too, retreat into nature? Not to escape, but to deepen our understanding of simplicity and impermanence. 9. Living under a tree, Rakamulikanga. Sheltering under a tree strips life to its bare essentials, fostering resilience and adaptability. This practice challenges our dependence on comfort and stability, asking what truly sustains us. In embracing the impermanence of such a dwelling, practitioners learn to find security within themselves. How often do we mistake comfort for happiness? What might we discover about ourselves if we relinquished our need for control and luxury? 10. Exposed to the elements, practitioners surrender to the unpredictability of life. This practice cultivates a radical acceptance that mirrors life's inherent uncertainties. Could we too learn to embrace the unexpected with courage and grace? What lessons might we uncover by stepping out of our comfort zones and into the unknown? 11. Residing in a charnel ground, Suzenekenga. Meditating among the dead confronts practitioners with the stark reality of mortality. It's a practice that dissolves attachment to the physical body and worldly desires, fostering profound detachment and fearlessness. What if we too faced death not as an end but as a teacher? Would it not deepen our appreciation for the present moment and transform the way we live? 12. Being satisfied with any dwelling, Yata Saptatanga. Practitioners find contentment in whatever shelter they are offered, be it grand or humble. This discipline underscores that happiness is rooted in inner acceptance, not external conditions. Could we adopt a similar mindset, finding joy and peace regardless of our surroundings? What would it take to cultivate such unwavering contentment? 13. Sleeping in a sitting position, Nesajikanga. Maintaining vigilance even in rest symbolizes unwavering commitment and discipline. It's a practice that transcends physical comfort, focusing on the pursuit of spiritual growth. In our own lives, what comforts might we be willing to sacrifice for a higher purpose? How might this shift our priorities and deepen our sense of fulfillment? These 13 ascetic practices are not merely disciplines. They are profound invitations to reflect on the essence of life, to question our attachments, and to explore what it means to live with purpose and clarity. Each practice challenges the practitioner and the observer to reimagine the boundaries of comfort, need, and contentment. A philosophical lens on Dhuttamga. Dhuttamga practices, deeply rooted in the Buddhist tradition, transcend mere ascetic challenges. They are not acts of deprivation for their own sake, but rather profound invitations to live with heightened deliberation and awareness. By engaging with these disciplines, practitioners are encouraged to strip away the superficial layers of life, peeling back the distractions, attachments, and egoic tendencies that often dominate our existence. These practices are not meant to punish the body or mind, but to illuminate truths that lie at the heart of the Buddha's teachings. The impermanence of all phenomena, the interwoven nature of existence, and the profound sufficiency found in simplicity. At their core, the Dhuttamga practices challenge the modern worldview of relentless accumulation and constant striving for comfort and luxury. They invite a direct confrontation with the fears and desires that shape our attachment to material and emotional securities. For instance, by practicing contentment with little, such as wearing patched robes, subsisting on alms, or dwelling in forests, the practitioner gains an intimate understanding of how little is truly needed to sustain a meaningful and peaceful life. Each of these disciplines is a stepping stone toward inner liberation, fostering clarity by removing the veil of unnecessary complexity. The Buddha's middle way serves as a vital framework for understanding Dhuttamga. It reminds us that renunciation, when rightly undertaken, is not about self-mortification, but about finding freedom. Freedom, in this sense, does not mean indulgence or escape. Rather, it is the unburdening of the mind from clinging, the release of the heart from grasping. Dhuttamga asks us to deeply reflect. What are we holding on to that keeps us from experiencing this freedom? What possessions, beliefs, or habits do we guard so tightly that they imprison rather than serve us? Such reflections are not rhetorical, they are deeply practical. Imagine the profound relief of letting go of possessions we don't need, expectations that weigh us down, or grudges that consume our peace. Each act of release, whether material or emotional, creates space. In that space arises the possibility of experiencing life as it is, unmediated by our constant craving for more. In this way, Dhuttamga becomes a means of rediscovery. It uncovers the inherent lightness of being, showing that contentment does not require accumulation, but arises from recognizing the sufficiency of what already is. The sufficiency of simplicity, a cornerstone of Dhuttamga, is not a passive concept. It is an active realization, born from living intimately with the bare essentials. When practitioners sleep under trees or walk barefoot, they encounter nature without the barriers of human artifice. Such encounters remind us of our deep interconnectedness with all life and the natural world. This interconnectedness is not abstract but visceral, a felt sense of belonging to the greater whole. It teaches that we are not separate from the world but part of its ebb and flow, bound by the same laws of impermanence and interdependence. In this sense, Dhuttamga offers a counter-narrative to modernity's story of progress through material gain. It suggests that true progress lies not in acquiring more, but in needing less. Through these practices, practitioners come to see that the things we often chase, comfort, recognition, and possessions, are not inherently fulfilling. Rather, it is the mind that perceives with clarity and the heart that rests in equanimity that find true contentment. Dhuttamga provides a pathway to cultivate this state, guiding individuals to live in harmony with the principles of simplicity and sufficiency. Moreover, the insights derived from Dhuttamga extend beyond the individual practitioner. By modeling a way of life that is sustainable, mindful, and deeply connected to the natural world, these practices offer a quiet but powerful critique of consumerism and environmental degradation. They remind us that living lightly on the earth is not only possible, but deeply enriching. In relinquishing excess, we find ourselves more attuned to the rhythms of nature, more present to the beauty of each moment, and more compassionate toward all beings. Dhuttamga also poses deeper existential questions. What does it mean to live a life of purpose? How do we navigate the tension between the spiritual and the material? These practices do not offer easy answers, but instead encourage a lifelong inquiry. They call for courage, the courage to face oneself, to confront one's attachments, and to step away from the comfort zones that often define modern living. This courage is not born of force but of wisdom, a wisdom that sees the futility of clinging and the freedom that lies in letting go. In the end, Dhuttamga is not about renunciation for its own sake. It is about clearing the path to the essence of being, where simplicity reveals abundance and letting go becomes a profound act of gaining. It teaches us that to release the unnecessary is not to diminish ourselves, but to expand into the spaciousness of freedom. Through its disciplines, we are reminded that true wealth lies not in possessions, but in the clarity of a mind unclouded by craving and the openness of a heart unburdened by attachment. It is in this state that we can truly live deliberately, seeing life as it is, and embracing its fleeting, interconnected, and beautiful nature. Relevance in the modern world. In today's era of consumerism and endless distractions, the Dhuttamga practices shine as a beacon of timeless wisdom. These ancient ascetic traditions offer profound lessons that resonate deeply with the challenges of modern life. They compel us to examine not just our external surroundings, but the internal landscapes of our minds, where desires and aversions often dictate our happiness. In a world dominated by material pursuits and the constant allure of more, Dhuttamga practices remind us of the beauty of less attachment, less distraction, and less dependence on fleeting pleasures. They challenge us to rethink our relationship with possessions, comfort, and cravings. Modern society often equates success with accumulation and comfort, fostering a culture where identity is intertwined with what we own or achieve. The Dhuttamga path, however, encourages us to strip away these illusions, unveiling the truth that peace and contentment arise not from external acquisitions, but from within. It is an invitation to reassess our priorities and redefine success, not as something measured by wealth or accolades, but by the depth of our mindfulness and connection to the present moment. What if we chose gratitude over greed? A simple shift in perspective could transform how we approach even the mundane aspects of life. Gratitude cultivates a sense of sufficiency, breaking the relentless cycle of wanting more and grounding us in appreciation for what already exists. This is particularly relevant in a time where environmental crises demand a reconsideration of overconsumption and its consequences. Dhuttamga practices remind us that living simply is not only a path to personal peace, but also an ethical responsibility toward the planet. What if we embraced silence over noise? In a hyper-connected digital age, silence is increasingly scarce and undervalued. Yet, silence holds transformative power, allowing us to listen to others, to nature, and most importantly, to ourselves. By choosing silence, even momentarily, we cultivate clarity and emotional balance, cutting through the chaotic chatter of daily life to reconnect with our true aspirations and values. What if we sought simplicity over complexity? Complexity often masquerades as sophistication in our fast-pacing, multitasking world, but it frequently leads to overwhelm and dissatisfaction. Simplicity, on the other hand, clears the path for intentional living, enabling us to focus on what truly matters. By simplifying our lives, we create space for mindfulness, for meaningful relationships, and for a deeper connection with the present moment. Each small step towards detachment, no matter how modest, brings us closer to inner peace. incorporating even fragments of Dhutanga principles into our lives, such as practicing gratitude, embracing silence, or simplifying our routines, can have profound effects on our well-being. These practices, far from being relics of the past, are vital tools for navigating the complexities of contemporary existence, offering a roadmap to a life of balance, clarity, and enduring joy. Conclusion: a journey inward. The 13 ascetic practices are not merely disciplines to follow. They represent a profound philosophy and a transformative way of life. They challenge us to step beyond the superficial layers of existence and engage in an honest confrontation with our fears, desires, and the truths we often hesitate to face. These practices strip away the distractions that cloud our vision, leading us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. In a world saturated with noise and endless pursuits of pleasure, the simplicity of these practices offers a stark yet liberating alternative. They beckon us to examine what truly matters, urging us to disentangle from the web of fleeting attachments and rediscover the core of our being. Each discipline is an invitation to cultivate mindfulness, to embrace impermanence, and to live with intention. In part 2, so I leave you with this thought. What would you be willing to release to uncover your truest self? Could it be the attachment to material possessions, the relentless chase for validation, or the fears that hold you captive? The path to freedom might be simpler than we often imagine, but simplicity does not mean easy. It requires courage, commitment, and the willingness to take that first step. The journey inward begins with a single moment of decision, a choice to let go, to surrender what no longer serves, and to walk toward clarity and liberation. Are you ready to take it? The destination is not a place, but a state of being, one where you are free, whole, and deeply connected to the essence of life itself.